Welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
We are jumping into a really fascinating realm today. It's where philosophy and, well, high-tech futurism collide head-on.
Yeah, we're talking about the deep, maybe inevitable cyborgization of the human brain.
And this isn't just about, getting faster Wi-Fi in your head or recalling facts perfectly.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We're digging into the fundamental question of what it means to be you when your carbon-based biology starts merging, really merging, with silicon.
We've pulled together insights from some pretty extensive research, particularly Anna Romanova's work, and she draws heavily on foundational thinkers here, people like David Chalmers, Susan Schneider, Daniel Dennett.
Right. These are the philosophers wrestling with questions that, frankly, your future self might actually have to answer someday.
So our mission today is, while it's clear, we need to unpack the two huge challenges these sources lay out.
Exactly. First, there's the personal dilemma, almost terrifying, about identity and consciousness. And second, the massive societal shift that seems almost certain to follow.
Okay, and to really ground this conversation, let's start with a quote. The kind of vision that makes the stakes immediately crystal clear. It's Elon Musk's goal.
Ah.
He said, if we can effectively merge man with artificial intelligence, then you effectively become a human symbiote of the artificial intelligence system.
A symbiote. That phrasing itself is powerful. It really forces us past the science fiction tropes and straight into, well, philosophical necessity.
Yeah, does that merger preserve you?
Yeah.
Or something else? And what happens to, humanity once some of us make that leap?
Big question.
Huge. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the first big challenge, the fragile self. The core issue raised by these thinkers is the continuity of your existence, yourself, after you've been partially or even fully upgraded with tech. Why is identity so fragile here?
Well, fundamentally, it's because we just don't have a consensus on what the self is to begin with. I mean, what's the core thing that makes you you over time?
Right. Is it memories, consciousness, just the physical body?
Exactly. Is it the soul, if you believe in that? Is it the pattern, the memories, the continuous stream of consciousness? Or just, the biological machinery? Until we figure that out, we can't possibly guarantee that introducing advanced technology won't fundamentally break, or worse, replace that self.
And that uncertainty leads straight to a practical and really urgent dilemma for anyone considering an implant down the line. David Chalmers framed it perfectly, didn't he?
He did, with that key two-part cordon.
Yeah. First, will the uploaded version of me be conscious? Secondly, will that be me?
That's the crux of it. We absolutely have to separate those two ideas. Consciousness and personal identity. They're not the same thing.
So you could have an experience, a conscious stream of thought.
Yeah.
But it might not be the original you having it.
Precisely. It could be a new self, a copy perhaps, built on your, let's say, cognitive architecture, still conscious, but is it you?
The sources actually break down this continuity idea into three aspects, which I found helpful. Can you walk us through those?
Sure. So imagine you get a significant enhancement, like a synthetic brain component. We need to think about continuity in three ways. First, preserving the self for myself.
Okay, the subjective feeling.
Right. Do I still feel like the same person day to day? Is my inner experience continuous from my perspective? That's number one.
Got it. Internal.
Second, preserving the self for others. This is social, relational. Do the people around me, my family, friends, colleagues, do they still recognize me?
So my personality, my quirks, my reactions, are they consistent with the person they knew before the upgrade?
Exactly. If you suddenly lose your sense of humor or your empathy shifts dramatically, even if you feel continuous inside, the self for others might be perceived as gone.
That makes sense. And the third one?
The third is preserving the self factually. This is the objective, metaphysical question. Is there a real, traceable, physical, or informational line of existence connecting the original carbon-based you to the later silicon-enhanced you?
And that sounds like the hardest one to pin down.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's the philosophical deep end.
And this is where it gets genuinely alarming, because many philosophers, like Schneider and Mandic, warn that the very act of improvement might be what destroys your identity.
Right. They point out that moving from carbon to silicon for a supposed upgrade may not be something that preserves your consciousness, experience, or personality.
So you get the enhancement, you become better in some way, but a new entity, essentially, wakes up. The original you is gone.
And think about the ethical nightmare that creates. Chalmers brings this up. If we start acknowledging that these advanced AI systems may be integrated into our brains, achieve their own consciousness during these processes,
Yeah.
then deciding to remove them, alter them, shut them down, he says it would be a form of genocide.
Wow. Genocide against your own enhanced self if you decide you don't like the upgrade or want to switch it off, that's heavy.
Incredibly heavy and almost unbearable ethical weight for something initially framed as just, enhancement or convenience.
So if digital replacement carries this kind of existential risk, what about actually replacing the physical brain tissue itself? Is there a biological line we just can't cross?
That's the perfect transition. It brings us right to the second key idea, the biological red line, the point of no return.
Okay, we replace joints, organs. Why is the brain different? Where's this red line?
The line, as the research suggests, is that moment when the original biological brain mass decreases so much that it can no longer sustain or support the continuity of the original self.
So it stops being a support system and becomes a replacement.
Essentially, yes. It's the point where the biological component is no longer the core locus of your identity, where the introduced technology takes over that role, factually speaking.
But hang on, if these replacements happen gradually, like chip by chip, neuron cluster by neuron cluster, you might not feel a sudden shift.
That's the insidious part. It's the ship of Theseus problem, but for your very consciousness.
The old paradox. Replace every plank of a ship one by one. Is it still the same ship?
Precisely. That gradual nature is what makes it so tricky and potentially dangerous. You might not notice that the original biological scaffolding that housed you has been incrementally swapped out until, well, maybe it's too late. The whole structure is effectively new.
Susan Schneider warned about this specifically, didn't she?
She did back in 2019. She made the point that while AI enhancements can definitely supplement or boost neural activity, think like a cognitive hearing aid, if they go so far as to replace normally functioning nerve tissue, at some point they may put an end to the life of a person.
Put an end to the life. Not enhance it, end it. So the key distinction is supplementing versus replacing.
That seems to be the critical insight, yes. Is the tech acting as an assistant to your biological brain, or is it taking over the core functions that constitute your personal identity? One is an upgrade, the other might be, well, a kind of death and replacement.
An assistant versus a new CEO in your own head.
That's a great analogy. Cross that red line, and the life that continues might not be the same life that started the process.
Okay, so we've got the personal existential threat. Let's shift gears now to the bigger picture, the societal level. This is the paradigm shift section, the singularity and the potential social schism. We're drawing here on thinkers like Werner Vinge and Nick Bostrom.
Right. We often talk about the technological singularity in terms of pure machine AI creating smarter AI at an exponential rate.
Yeah, the intelligence explosion.
Well, this applies the same logic to human AI emerging. The cyborgization singularity is this potential feedback loop. Enhanced humans design smarter AI, which then allows for the creation of even more radically enhanced humans, and so on.
And Chalmers called this a speed explosion, right? Faster processing leads to faster designers, faster design cycles.
Exactly. And the terrifying consequence is that unenhanced humans, naturals, let's call them, could quickly fall behind, unable to keep pace intellectually, technologically, maybe even economically.
A widening gap.
A rapidly widened gap. And what's really crucial to grasp here, according to the research, is that this process doesn't require the enhanced to remain recognizably human or even humanoid.
The very definition of human starts to dissolve.
It could, as the singularity accelerates. The endpoint isn't necessarily just a faster Homo sapiens. It could be something quite different.
Which immediately raises the specter of a massive social split, a schism. The sources talk about strong versus weak enhancement. What's the difference there?
It's a really important distinction. Most people initially think of weak enhancement or weak superintelligence. That's like increasing the clock speed of your brain.
So faster calculations, perfect memory recall, speaking multiple languages instantly.
Right. It's essentially a quantitatively better version of current human intelligence, like a much, much faster calculator or translator built in. That's weak.
But strong superintelligence, that's something else entirely.
It is. Werner Vinge really emphasized this. Creating strong superhumanity isn't just about running the existing human operating system faster. It's about achieving a qualitatively new level of thought.
Designing a whole new OS for the mind.
You could think of it that way. An intelligence capable of conceptualizing ideas, solving problems, maybe even having experiences that are literally inconceivable to us unenhanced humans. That's the strong enhancement, and that's likely the group that would drive a true singularity forward.
And the risk, the huge risk, is that this split just fractures humanity, maybe permanently.
That's the fear. Chalmers actually laid out 4 potential outcomes for the naturals, the ones who don't or can't enhance: extinction, isolation, inferiority, or integration.
None of those sound particularly appealing, except maybe integration, but how realistic is that?
Well, that leads directly to the final and maybe most urgent challenge discussed in the research. How do we prevent this schism? How do we achieve integration?
Because the sources stress that division just weakens everyone, right? Cooperation between naturals and enhance would actually strengthen humanity overall.
Absolutely. But here's the giant practical problem, the elephant in the room. What can the naturals actually offer the enhanced, once the enhanced control, say, the vast majority of intellectual, financial, and maybe even physical resources?
If the strong, enhanced, reach a point where they genuinely don't need us, why wouldn't they just leave us behind? Isolate us?
It's a stark question, and this is where the proposed solution in the sources gets really interesting, almost counterintuitive.
Okay.
The suggestion is to proactively apply the kinds of approaches we currently use or strive to use to protect minority groups. Think principles of non-discrimination, inclusion, ensuring rights and representation.
So like civil rights protections, but for future biological status.
Sort of, but here's the wild part, the inversion. Initially, these policies would likely be about inclusivity for the enhanced, protecting the early adopters, the first cyborgs, from potential fear, prejudice, or backlash from natural society.
Ah, right. Protecting the minority from the majority.
But follow the logic of the singularity. If the enhanced become vastly more capable and numerous, or at least vastly more powerful, that policy eventually flips.
It flips. How?
It becomes about inclusivity for the naturals. We become the vulnerable minority requiring protection, requiring our rights to be upheld by the overwhelmingly powerful enhanced majority.
Wow. We'd need a Bill of Rights for baseline humans enforced by superintelligences.
That's the potential trajectory. And that shift, that inversion point, is profound. It leads to a very urgent call to action in the research.
Which is?
That the companies developing these brain interface technologies right now need to be doing parallel research, not just on the tech, but on the ethics, the societal impact, the framework for a future social contract.
We need to design the rules for peaceful coexistence before the power imbalance becomes totally overwhelming.
Exactly. We need the societal software ready before the hardware fully rolls out. It requires, as Nick Bostrom pointed out, cultivating an atmosphere of tolerance and acceptance toward those who are different from us, whether those differences are rooted in biology, culture, or eventually technology.
A huge undertaking.
Massive.
Okay, so let's recap. We've looked at the 2 major pillars of risk here. First, the deeply personal challenge. The potential loss of yourself, your identity, crossing that biological red line.
Right. The fear that the upgrade deletes you.
And second, the huge societal challenge. The risk of a cyborgization singularity leading to a fractured humanity, a schism between the enhanced and the naturals.
And the urgent need to figure out how to prevent that schism, how to build a future where both can coexist.
Right. So as you, listening, consider these monumental implications, the threat to your personal identity, the potential fracturing of our species, we want to leave you with a final thought. It comes from Daniel Dennett, and it really puts our current understanding of intelligence into perspective.
Dennett observed something quite profound. He said that the human mind is so far removed from all previous forms of intelligence in the natural world, think dolphins, chimps, even bacteria, that at any scale, everything we could invent to measure intelligence would be so anthropocentric that it would comically distort the reality it is supposed to measure.
Comically distort reality. So if our current ways of measuring intelligence, our IQ tests, our definitions of consciousness, our benchmarks, if they already distort the reality of intelligence in the natural world around us.
And how prepared are we, really? How prepared are you to measure, to understand, to manage, and ultimately maybe to govern the truly radical, perhaps utterly non-anthropocentric intelligence of the future enhanced self?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.